Welcome to another Subject to Finance conversation, and today I am talking to Knight Hou, CEO and co-founder of Relab. Welcome, Knight.
Hi, Andrew. Good day,
Yeah,
everyone.
good to have you on the show. So, Knight, I'm going to start with the things I like to talk about, which relate to my background, which is home loans. So,
Awesome.
first question I have for you today is, how old were you when you bought your first home?
I think I was 28 or 29 at the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah. And what sort of commitment was that for you at the time? Can you remember the journey and saving and all that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, it was not particularly an enjoyable journey
Yeah.
because I remember it was around 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it took me more than 8 months of
Mm.
going to open homes almost
Yeah.
every weekend. Felt
Yeah.
like a second job at the time,
Yeah.
and just uncertainties around finding the right property, not
Mm.
knowing what to buy,
Yeah.
and being pulled to all kinds of directions by
Yeah.
different real estate agents.
Yeah. I don't think people realize the time required. It's like it can take up to 18 months. In fact, I think the average stats that come out of Aussie put first home buying at an 18-month long
Wow,
process. So it's quite long.
that is quite long.
Yeah, we've got to manage a business around that because we've got someone that's checking in to get some early info, and it can take a year and a half before we actually do something with them. So
Wow.
yeah, it is a big commitment. And it's really interesting because most people don't avoid that, we all go to the open homes, we all miss out on the one we loved, all those things happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then looking at your sort of corporate career, I know back before Relab, you were Air New
hmm
Zealand. Tell
hmm
us about that journey of leaving sort of the corporate and starting a startup. Where did the idea come from? How did you get into property data? Just give us that
Yeah.
little journey.
All right. Okay. I'll try and just be
Mm,
concise. But I like to start with my own personal journey. I was born in China, and I came to New Zealand when I was around 18 or 19
hmm.
as an international student. I was on my
Yep.
own at the time. Starting up a new life in a new
Mm,
country. So that was
mm,
quite challenging. And also at the
yep.
time, this was just after 9/11.
Hmm.
In the following years, the exchange rate of Kiwi dollars have almost doubled
Yeah.
early 2000s. So what that
Yeah.
meant was what I had and my parents had budgeted for
Yep.
me
Yeah.
to study and live,
Yeah.
suddenly your budget was instantly halved.
Yeah.
So that was quite difficult.
Yeah.
I remember having to work part time at McDonald's in sandwich shops just to earn the living
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
expenses.
Yeah.
Um, so after uni, I got a job with Air New Zealand. Was very fortunate. At the
Hmm.
time, I felt like, wow, okay, got my first job, should be
Landed on
sorted
your
for
feet.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm,
and I spent a decade with our national carrier,
mm,
and that was an incredible experience. But I always remember feeling, oh, do I really want to, you know, spend the next 30 years or whatever
mm,
working
mm.
age I had in a
Yep.
corporate? And I,
Yep.
I knew it was clearly no.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
started exploring different entrepreneurial ideas and
Hmm.
journeys, had several
Hmm.
startup and failed.
Hmm.
And then I started looking for my first home. And,
Right.
this goes back to what we were
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
before. It was quite I felt like I was not in control because
Mm,
you're told by different agents and different versions of stories. I was not very comfortable with that because I was not able to make my own decisions,
mm,
and I attribute that to data, lack of
yeah.
data point
Yeah.
for me as a
Yeah.
home buyer to make the decision. So
Mm, mm,
that was one of the early ideas of,
yeah.
hey, wouldn't it be great if there's one website that gives you all the information you need?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the early inception
Hmm.
of the
Hmm.
idea,
Yeah.
which then paved the way for Relap.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. I sort of think back to my first home and how out of control you feel. Because you're
Yeah.
reliant on an agent. Is the agent truthful? Is he honest?
hmm
Is he, then you get told you got to get a building inspection, and it's the same sort of thing. Does he know what he's talking about? You know?
Yes.
Yeah, the whole process is kind of like I'm putting my faith in a whole bunch of people,
Hmm.
and I'm unable to kind of know whether or not they're doing the right thing by me. So yeah, it's changed a lot, I'd have to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about Relab. Tell us
Hmm.
what is in an essence, what is Relab?
Yeah. In essence, Relab is the all-in-one platform that gives you everything you want to know about any piece of property in New Zealand for real estate agents, property buyers, investors, first-home buyers, etc. And the whole premise is around full transparency, high accuracy, and up-to-date data all in one place.
Mm, mm,
So our business model is uh, a subscription model. So
mm,
users pay for a subscription, monthly or annual, to get full access,
mm,
unlimited.
mm,
And we're quite different from the Trade Me's, the One Roof's of the world, where they rely on advertising revenue,
mm.
and we are fully independent and unbiased data source.
Yeah,
So we've
yeah.
been around for 4 or 5 years. We've grown from nothing to about 30 to 35% market share
Mm,
within the real estate agent sector here in New
mhm.
Zealand because they love us.
Yep.
And yeah, our aspiration is to become the leading platform for all Kiwi property professionals
Mm,
when it comes to
mm,
data needs.
mm. And I was going to say, who are your audiences? Who are you serving?
Yeah, that's real estate agents first and foremost, and the reason is they help their end customers,
Mm,
and we empower them so that they have all the information on their devices,
yeah.
and they don't need to worry about
Mm,
jumping through 8 different websites
yeah.
to get the most accurate number.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
most agents, they hold high professional standards. They don't want to be asked and challenged without
Mm,
having the answer.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, I know simple things that I've seen from Relab that really change things for me is just the ability to kind of look at a map, for example, and see what's going
Hmm.
on in that area.
Yeah.
And it's again coming back to buying a home, in the home loan space. And, I can
Yep.
think of one yesterday where client was looking at putting an offer on a house, but they were really uncertain about what they were being told about the neighbouring property.
Yep.
So one of our guys in our sales team, the first thing he did is look at Relab to see if there was a consent issued on that property. So
Sure.
the way those tools are being used it's probably quite varied across different user cases, but it's really all about property insights at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yes, Andrew, you're absolutely right. We know that the majority of our customer base are real estate agents, but we also have people in the finance industry, building industry, and other type of professionals that use Relap for their own use cases, and many of which we're still exploring and learning.
Mhm, mhm.
So yeah, it does have quite a wide application.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So you sort of mentioned your aspirations to be number one in the marketplace.
Mhm.
Just in the near term, what have you got on that sort of near term horizon in terms of things you're doing?
Sure.
And yeah.
Yeah, I'd say in the near term, we'll have three focuses. If we look at our business, in essence, it's a data business. So having a
Hmm.
strong data foundation is incredibly important for us.
Yep.
So we always tell our customers, Relab, here at Relab, we don't create data.
Mm,
We integrate, we absorb, and we make sure data is presented in a professional manner. So that's what we
mm,
do at
mm,
its core.
mm,
We've just recently completed a huge migration from legacy databases into a modern cloud-based data lake
mhm,
that provides higher performance and high accuracy of data quality. So that's a
mm,
foundation layer. On top
mhm.
of that, it's all about understanding our customers.
Yeah,
We touch on different customer segments and different
yeah,
customer personas.
yeah.
I still feel like we're on the journey to intimately understand their use cases so we can
Mm,
improve our product experience. So
mm,
that's the customer piece. And on top is the product and execution piece.
yeah.
So once we got the layer right, and once we understand our customers, how do
Mm,
we provide a tailored experience for them. So 3 things we focus on in the short term.
And are you geographically bound, or do you see yourself sort of going into the Aussie market at some point, or some other market at some point? What's the opportunity there for you outside of New Zealand?
Yeah, I guess as a founder, I'd be lying if I say, hey, we don't have any growth ambitions. We definitely do have dreams and aspirations to grow beyond our geographic boundaries. However, there are challenges too, because the nature of property data is quite regional based, because data comes from local authorities and different government departments. And one of the main challenges are when you pull the data together, that's easy. But when you try and sort of align and get the data to talk to each other, that's hard, because everyone have their own standard. There's no sort of universal standard. So we've built that capability in New Zealand now. The question for us to think about is this capability useful in another market? Are there existing competition? And are there new use cases, especially with the wave of artificial intelligence and data science? So, we're actively looking at Aussie market and the US market. However, we're still very early on that journey of exploration.
What are the trends you're seeing in your space offshore? The things that excite you?
Good shout. One of the things I'm learning, I'm starting to realize is, although Australia is only one ditch across, but their market is very, very different from ours in terms of the dynamics of the different state versus federal government, as well as some of their property tech players such as realestate.com.au and Domain are very, very strong. So they play with the role of both being a media and listing company, ginormous ones, and also data company. So that's an interesting dynamic. So we don't see play out as heavily here. So that's one. Another is, I'm going to query you on this, Andrew. To sell a home, for average home seller, a homeowner in Australia, do you know how much they spend on just getting the listings on the market and the whole ads package?
I hate to think.
Well, let's say in New Zealand, it's anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000. That pays all your ads.
I was going to say
does this number look
15 to 20K.
You're not far off the mark. So it's a huge discrepancy, and it's a huge number for Aussie homeowners. So they're all the interesting regional dynamics.
I'm always intrigued.
We don't see here.
I'm always intrigued, and it's a bit of a tricky one to answer. And I don't want to offend any of the real estate agents on that watch this channel, but I'm always interested in where we see that sort of industry going, especially with digital and things like AI and other bits coming in, and the ability for me to go online and get data that helps make that decision over using a person. So what are your thoughts on the future for agents? And don't get me wrong, it's very similar to my business with mortgage brokers. There's that relationship component that never goes away. But where do you see it going?
It's interesting if we think back, right? I mean, technology advancement is here to stay. It will only accelerate. But it's not the first time we've been through a technology sort of disruption. If you go back to the late 1990s and early 2000s with the emergence of internet, and at the time there were huge sort of debates around, hey, some jobs are going to be gone and be completely wiped out by the internet. But now looking back, very, very few sectors have been completely replaced by the internet.
That's right.
But most industries have been changed, and they operate in different ways now, and new jobs have been created because of this. So I think what we're seeing right now with AI is no different. I think it will take all of us a while to just understand its full implications. But when it comes to real estate agents, um, I think that people choose a real estate agent uh, because they want a problem to be solved, and getting their house sold is one of the problems in many
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I see real estate agents as a profession more than just a sales profession. It's
Yeah.
actually a professional service. It's a service industry.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
within that service industry, you have people who operate at the really sort of premium professional service layer.
Yeah.
You also have people who operate in different layers of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, if anything, it's it's the agent who takes the long approach,
Yeah.
who constantly learn and improve their professional standards,
Yeah.
and use the help of technology. They will win.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
right. I mean, I think we've always, well, we will always have that kind of 80-20 rule in place. And what the advantages of tech do is allow us to manage the 80 in a better way,
yeah,
be more efficient, um, lower our cost to serve, all those sorts of things. So
yes.
yeah, yeah. No,
So,
that's yeah.
actually, Andrew, do you see parallels? Because you're in the finance industry,
Mm,
you deal with a lot of home buyers and
mm,
mortgage brokers.
mm,
What are some of your observations when it comes to the mortgage broker
yeah,
sector? Yeah.
yeah. I see them being much more focused on relationship and deal generation at a personal level, at a
Okay.
physical level,
Mm-hmm.
and also to some degree cross sell. So I think these roles will change over time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Specialization might change and broaden. People might build, if I look at my industry in the past, we've had advice being very specialized to mortgages or to insurance or to wealth. I actually
Mm-hmm.
think that we'll see that starting to converge.
Okay.
Um, and it's technology that will foster that and allow it to happen in a way. So yeah, it's always hard to know how much things will converge, but even between our two businesses, you can sort of see that over time there's a natural convergence that's going to happen because
Yeah.
we're two sides of the same coin in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's quite fascinating. But I think you're absolutely right. We get new tools in this world, such as the internet. In the past, and we learn to use them, but it doesn't necessarily change the fundamentals of what we do. At the end of the day, we're still service businesses. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm going to sort of ask you, you work a lot with real estate agents. And
Yes.
so my next question for you is more around how are you feeling about 2024? What are you seeing and hearing from those groups that you're working with in terms of marketplace?
Sure. And this is just purely my personal view. It doesn't
Mm,
represent the whole market, but we engage and support our customers who are risk agents on a daily basis. So I guess I do have the benefit of kind of staying quite close to the cold face.
mm,
Um, so after Q4 last year, there was quite a lot of optimism in the market
mhm,
in terms of, hey, property market will pick up next year. I think January people are still getting back to work. February, first part of February, there was a uplift in terms of
mhm.
activities. However, that's the steam seems to be lost somewhat towards the second part of. I mean, today is 29th of February,
Mm,
so
mm.
that's just some of the trends.
Yeah,
Higher interest environment still
yeah.
presents challenges to
Mhm,
both first-time buyers as
mhm,
well as investors.
mm.
Uh, we hear a lot of people who are thinking of moving up, moving down.
Yep,
They're less determined in terms of their timeline. We don't see a lot of what's going on in the refinance world. I guess that's what you see a lot from a real estate agency point of view. There's no transaction happening. So those are sort of some of our observations for the last 2 months, 2 to 4 months. Looking forward, I think there is a lot of hope and optimism for like the second half of this year, where if the interest rate changes, then that will change the sentiment of the market. We'll have a lot of activities supported by that. And also it will be spring and summertime. So second part of 2024, there was a lot of hope. But meanwhile, as sales transactions are sort of just going sideways, that means agents' revenue stays the same. That means you're competing in the same pool. The pool's not getting any bigger. So that's just stronger competition. People are, both agency owners and agents are looking at how they operate. They're looking for efficiencies. They're looking for competitive advantage.
And you might know this. I'm interested to know whether we're seeing agents leaving the industry. Is the overall size of the industry shrinking? Have you got a feel for that?
Yeah, that's a good insight. So we or anyone can log into REA, Real Estate Authority, which is a regulator. They have a monthly stats published around the number of new licenses gained, as well as the total size of the industry. So looking at year on year, the number of real estate agents who became inactive have dropped around 5 to 8%. So it's not a huge drop, but you expect that. And in terms of new agents coming to the industry for January, it's actually on par with last January.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. It sort of feels like one of those sort of years as you're coming out the bottom of it's that parabolic curve. As you're coming out of the bottom of something, you're almost flat. And that's probably what we should expect, but starting to pick up.
Again, this is where the 80-20 rule comes in. If you're talking about a high performing real estate agent who have seen the cycle 3 times and over, then they're very well positioned and well prepared for. However, if you're talking about a new agent who got their license during COVID times, and who have not managed to build their own pipeline over the last 2 years, they're really struggling because there's no income.
Exactly. It's always hardest to be the one that was in 5 minutes before the crash. So regardless of what the transaction or the opportunity was.
Yes.
So I'm going to come back to sort of your experience as a home buyer, and what would your advice be for a first home buyer today sitting out there thinking about their options?
I think my advice to first home buyers is just do your research and have a strategy and try and be less emotionally led. And quite often, if you have a couple buying together, maybe between the two partners, you need to sit down and look at your 10 or 20 year horizon where you want to be and work backwards. And also, just like anything, the more effort you're putting, the better outcome it will be. I don't know whether there is magic number in terms of the number of open homes and auctions you have to go to, but my advice will be just go and do as many viewings as possible, talk to a wide range of people to get the spectrum of views, and just invest the time on one of your biggest investment in life. So that would be my advice.
It's great advice. Really good. I think it's realizing that little bit of time now is going to make a huge difference in 20 years time, isn't it?
And another way to look at this is, let's say we're not looking at buying a home. Let's say the couple is looking at investing 10 grand cash into their friend's business.
Yeah.
Right. If you go through that, if a friend came to you and said, hey,
Yeah.
Andrew, I'm selling my, I'm raising some money for my brewery business, and this is what I do. Think of the questions and the type of due diligence you would go through to decide whether you put your heart in cash or not.
Yeah.
And now change that into buying your first home and ask yourself, are you applying the same disciplined approach to spending, I don't know,
Absolutely.
50, 100 times the amount of money?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And good advice up front can make such a big difference too. But it's every dollar you put in as a deposit is worth so much to you in 20 years' time. That's the other thing. It's like every dollar of capital you manage to acquire in a home is worth so much more to you. So everything gets magnified from that first investment, doesn't it?
Yeah. And learn about time value of money, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's so true. Property investors, what do you think they should be considering at the moment?
Again, with property investors, there is an 80-20 rule too. There are investors who are looking at their 10th deal and they're sitting on, quite a sizable portfolio that they managed to build up over the last X number of years. And from those people, when you talk to them, they really treat what they do very professionally, not like a hobby. So they would see themselves offering a service to Kiwis who are looking for a good place to rent, and they would absolutely uphold the high standards when it comes to that service delivery. Security, warm houses, all of that. And then you have the 80% who are either mum and dad trying to build out their portfolio, or couples who are looking for their retirement. Then I'd say, again, have you done enough due diligence? What's your investment strategy? If you were to invest 100 grand into some stocks, what kind of metrics you would go through? So taking the same disciplined approach and use data sources such as Relab to help you become more informed.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we've probably talked enough for today, Knight, but it's been really interesting talking to you.
Thank you.
For any of our listeners, if you haven't had a look at Relab, I think it's relab.co.nz, Knight, is that right?
Yes.
And it's certainly, I think, transformational in terms of what you're trying to do. So all the best for the future with it. And
thank you.
Thank you very much for participating in the conversation today.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I just want to say that you and the team you lead at Teller, you're really creating something quite new out there when it comes to the mortgage experience and the home buying experience. So and listeners out there, check out Teller, Teller.co.nz. And or I don't know, pick up a phone with Andrew and make some inquiries.
Thanks for that. That's great, Mike.
Awesome.
We'll leave it there, but talk again in a week's time with the next guest on our show.
Cool. Cheers, Andrew. Have a good day, everyone.